Naughty, naughty, very naughty.
Hey up, pop it, you alright?
Hello and welcome to Relive the League. We continue to bring you all of the goals, the comedy moments, and the good old-fashioned defensive challenges.
Back when you didn't get booked for now.
Exactly. Now we are on Gameweek 7 in the 92-93 season. How have we got here so quickly?
Flying into it. You can start with away 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, 2 weeks ago, Gameweek 5, I left you to it. It was Halloween. I had to take the kids out.
You're trick-or-treating, getting Harry, but I'm on my Todd, talking into a microphone in my bedroom. It's brilliant.
Game week 6, I was Blackpool, enjoying
luxury,
living
the
life,
Las Vegas of the North,
living life on the pleasure beach.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But I didn't miss the football though, Mike. Did you keep up to date with the football?
I did, yeah. Years? Tottenham got their first win.
No. Start with Newcastle Arsenal. Was that ball out? Was the ball in? Was it out?
It's just nonsense. It really is.
Tottenham Chelsea, like you say. How much time was added on there?
For 12 minutes at first half, weren't they?
You just can't enjoy it, can you?
Yeah, it's a third of a game.
And then what was after that? Newcastle Dortmund. That was the following night. Newcastle. Is it a step too far for them? Champions League? Is it too soon?
Did you see what Scholes said? He said they're out now, aren't they? That's them done. That's their goose cooked. Unfortunately though, but I think they've got a good chance of winning Europa League.
I don't know. Liverpool are in it. And who else this week? It was Man United against Copenhagen. I just had to turn it off. Johnny Evans in lineup. What's going on there?
Came off injured after about 8 minutes, so his hamstrings are like an old rubber band now, aren't
they? But yeah, if you're listening and you're in, hello.
Hey up.
Make sure you subscribe to this video. It'd be and like it as well.
Not to the video. Subscribe to the channel.
Oh, subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe to the channel. Stick a like on it. They help us quite a little bit. Stick the notification bell on. You're new to it. You've been doing it 7 weeks and had 2 weeks holiday. Come to Twitter. Follow us on there. We have a Facebook as well. We're not that right active on there. Ben posts on TikTok for kids. Yeah. I don't know what else.
Well, this episode, let's.
The episode. Yeah.
So, what have we got to look forward to? We've got Wimbledon, Arsenal.
Yeah, well, Arsenal are going to bounce them, aren't they?
Well, you'd expect so.
Oh, tune in!
Dean Saunders.
Yeah, the least said about that, the better. Like, if you're watching and you have let's say a weak stomach, get something to hide behind ready for the Liverpool game, especially at the start of it.
Dirty indeed. And we have our very first own goal.
First own goal.
So, anyone know who it is? Put it in the comments now.
It's one for the pub quizzes. We try to put them in for you as well to get your stats up and your football knowledge. But my highlight of the week, stick around for the Villa game, Super Steve Staunton. Keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah, well, I think it's time to press that button, Mike.
Yeah.
It's time to go back. Let's relive the league.
I'll see you there.
So we start this week with Everton, the unbeaten Everton, travelling to White Hart Lane to take on Tottenham Hotspur, who finally got their first win of the season last week, thanks to Teddy Sheringham.
Super Ted.
This fixture last season, it was a standout. Tottenham 3-0 up at half time. They were very Spursy and they threw that lead away, drawing 3-3. They don't want to be doing that this season.
Tottenham line up today with Ian Walker in goal. Dave Tuttle comes in for the suspended Neil Ruddock. Jason Cundy. Pat Vanden Howe. You thought I was going to do the song, didn't you? Stone Cold Dean Austin. Andy Gray, who comes in for Steve Sedgley. Vinnie Samways. Paul Allen. Darren Anderton, with Gordon Jury and Teddy Sheringham up front. On the bench, Eric Torsved, Justin Edinburgh and Andy Turner. And for Toffees, Neville Southall in goal, a back four of Alan Harper, Gary Ablett, Dave Watson and Mark Ward. A midfield of Andy Hinchcliffe, John Ebrell, Barry Horn and Robert Varzicker, who's coming in for Tony Cottee. Peter Beardsley and Mo Johnson up front, who's coming in for Paul Rydell. On the bench, Jason Caton, Peter Beagrie and Stuart Barlow.
Barlow? In Cara?
The first bit of action today came in the 42nd minute as John Ebrell got the ball in his own half and pumped one forward. Beardsley did look offside, but with his pace...
He was offside.
No, he wasn't offside. He raced clear and he struck one straight past Ian Walker. 1-0 to Toffees. Tottenham got level in the 79th minute when a cross came in. Teddy Sheringham did the biggest air kick you'll ever see. Jury fired a shot in. Sheringham tried to force it in. Big Nev saved it and there was Paul Allen to turn it in to make it 1-1. And then, in stoppage time, Andy Gray chucked in a long throw. The ball bobbled around in the box and it fell to youngster Andy Turner, who smashed home to make it 2-1 to Tottenham. That's 2 in a row for the mighty Spurs.
And there we go, another one for you statisticians. And you pub quiz extraordinaires out there. The youngest player in the Premier League,
17.
Andy Turner, has just scored the winner. The former School of Excellence graduate bangs
FA
in
School of Excellence.
the FA School of Excellence for Tottenham, taking them 2 on the bounce, and Everton to their first loss of the season.
Go on, Spurs! Next, we're going back to Norfolk to watch Norwich City, who are hosting the tough and rugged Southampton. Norwich line up with Brian Gunn in goal, Rob Newman, Ian Butterworth, Mark Bowen and Ian Culverhouse at the back, with the midfielder Jeremy Goss, Gary Megson, Ian Crook and the player of the season so far, David Phillips. Up front, Lee Power again and Chris Sutton. On the bench are Mark Walton, Darryl Such and Mark Robbins. And for Southampton, Tim Flowers in goal, Kevin Moore, Kemon Cow, Francis Benali and Jason Dodd at the back, with Terry Hurlock, Neil Madison and Matt Letizia in midfield. Perry Groves comes in for Mickey Adams, David Speedy and Ian Dowie in for Kerry Dixon make the 3 up front. On the bench, Ian Andrews, Jeff Kenner and Nicky Banger. Now we're coming up against a first on Relive the League, a game where we can't actually find any footage for. So it's left to history, and the only people who had eyes on it were the 12,452 in attendance at Carrow Road today. What we do know though is Norwich have got off to an absolute flyer, leading the pack, sitting pretty at the top of the Premier League. All this down to the tactical prowess of manager Mike Walker, who this week became the Premier League's first ever Manager of the Month. There's another one for your quiz sheet. Also, let's just take a second to marvel at that jumper. Classic Ribeiro. Guys, if you're listening, reproduce them in club's colours. You'll sell an absolute fortune's worth. I'll take 10. In the game itself, Southampton duo of Perry Groves and Matt Letizia looked the two most dangerous to break Norwich's resolve. Terry Hurlock hit Brian Gunn's bar with a shot from distance. But the standout performer yet again was Welsh international David Phillips. And in the 87th minute, it was Phillips who provided the winning goal for Norwich after a cross came into the far post. Phillips nodded it down across the goal and Mark Robbins tapped in to make it 1-0 to the Canaries. That's Robbins' 4th goal since his discount move from Man United. Norwich 16 points, Southampton a lowly 6, 1 win, 3 draws, 3 losses.
And next up, we've got Manchester City travelling to Hillsborough to take on Sheffield Wednesday.
And Wednesday line up with Chris Woods in goal, Nigel Pearson, Paul Warhurst, Nigel Worthington and Roland Nielsen at the back. Danny Wilson comes in midfield for Peter Shirtliff, Carlton Palmer, Chris Waddle and Chris Bart-Williams. And in attack, Paul Williams and Gordon Watson comes in for Nigel Jemson, who missed a sitter in midweek. On the bench, Kevin Pressman, John Arks and player manager Trevor Francis. And for Man City, Tony Courton in goal, Keith Curl, Michel Vonk, Terry Phelan and Ian Brightwell at the back. And midfielder Peter Reid, Gary Flitcroft, Fitzroy Simpson and Rick Oldham. And up front, David White and Mike Shedden, who comes in for Niall Quinn. On the bench, Martin Margetson, Steve McMahon and Adi Mike. In the 20th minute, Mike Shedden picked the ball up on the left and went on an amazing jinky run right through the Sheff Wednesday defence. Shot. Chris Woods saved it, bounced off the shins of a Wednesday defender, and to Chris Woods, that's given us a back pass. So, I mean, that's a dubious one. He hasn't passed it, has he? It's come off his shin pads, that. Anyway, we get one of our glorious indirect free kicks. Peter Reid rolls it, and David White smacks it through a blue and white wall. 1-0. In the 55th minute, Ian Brightwell whipped in a cross, and there was big Michel Vonk to make it 2-0. And then, to add insult to injury, David White made it 3 in the 75th minute. To make things even worse, Roland Nielsen limps off. That means now David Hurst, John Sheridan, Phil King, Roland Nielsen and Nigel Pearson all on the treatment table. It's crisis time at Hillsborough.
That's 2 goals today for David White,
England's David White,
to bring his goal tally to 7 goals in 7 games.
the man's world class.
Sheffield Wednesday, injury crisis, and a 3rd consecutive defeat. What are you going to do Wednesday? What are you going to do? Next up, we've got Oldham Athletic hosting Coventry City. Coventry City have won every game on the road this season. How will they get on at Boundary Park today?
Oldham line up with John Hallworth in goal, Steve Redmond, Richard Jobson, Neil Poynton, Gunnar Haller and Paul Bernard at the back. A midfield of Mike Milligan and Nick Henry, who's coming in for Neil Adams, with Ian Marshall, Ian Olney, the 2-goal hero from midweek, and Graham Sharp up front. On the bench, Ian Gray, Neil Adams and Roger Palmer. And for Coventry, as always, Steve Grizovic in goal, a back 3 of Andy Pearce, Kenny Sanson and Brian Burrows, who's in for Terry Fleming. Lee Hurst, Lloyd McGrath, Stuart Robson and Kevin Gallagher in midfield, with Robert Rosario, John Williams and Peter and Love up front. On the bench, Jonathan Gould, Phil Babb and Terry Fleming. For once, there wasn't that much excitement at Boundary Park for the 11,000 in attendance. In the 55th minute, Stevie Grizovic whacked a ball forward, Robert Rosario flicked on, Kevin Gallagher met it and volleyed home first time past John Allworth to make it 1-0 Coventry. And that's how it stayed, and that's how it ended. 3 points for Coventry.
Well, that was actually Oldham's first defeat at home this season. And Coventry, they maintain their 100% away record, 1-0. And next up, we've got Liverpool taking on the mighty Chelsea at Anfield.
And Liverpool line up with David James in goal, Mark Wright, David Burrows, Steve Harkness and Rob Jones at the back. In midfield, Jan Mulvey, Jamie Redknapp, Steve McManaman and Ronnie Whelan. And up front, Ian Rush, and coming in for Mark Walters is Dean Saunders, who was left out last week. On the bench, Bruce Grobbelaar, Mike Marsh and Mark Walters. And Chelsea line up with Dave Bessett in goal, a back 3 of Paul Elliott, David Lee, who comes in for Steve Clark, and Mal Donaghy. In midfield, Gareth Hall, Eddie Newton, Vinnie Jones, Andy Townsend and Dennis Wise. And up front, Robert Fleck and Mick Harford. On the bench, Nick Colgan, Premier League royalty making his first appearance, 18-year-old Ian Pearce and Joe Allen. Liverpool were resigned to the fact that Dean Saunders was off to Villa, but them talks broke down. He's back in the lineup today. Not long into the first half though, I can't even look. He committed the most cynical foul I've ever seen in my life on Paul Elliott's knee. and unbelievably he didn't even go into referees, but Paul Elliott spending a night in hospital. Please don't rewind that at any point. Get well soon, Paul. Then in the 27th minute, Jan Molby whipped in a free kick. Dean Saunders met it with his head and put Liverpool 1-0 up and went and did a lap of Anfield giving high fives. Into the second half though, 72nd minute, Robert Fleck broke down the left. Rob Jones decided to dive at nothing. He played a dainty ball into the box. Two Chelsea fellas fainted. And there was Mick Arford to slot on the equaliser, 1-1. And in the 90th minute, Mark Walters beat two men on the right, showed Mal Donaghy shoulder. Dave Besant forgot how to goalkeep. And there was Jamie Redknapp, the youngster, to win it for Liverpool in the last minute. 2-1, a vital 3 points for Liverpool. One that, well, they shouldn't have had Saunders on the park in my opinion, so they're getting away with that one.
Well, you are right. Saunders shouldn't have been anywhere near the pitch.
Absolute filth.
He should have been sent off, straight red, and why would anybody even be wanting to sign a dirty little pig like that?
Dirty
I'm not happy with that. Robbery. Chelsea, I feel for you lads. Next up, we've got the draw specialists, Ipswich Town, travelling to Loftus Road to take on Queen's Park Rangers.
And QPR line. Oh, Jan's back. Roberts kept a clean sheet and they've put Jan Steshkal back in goal. Alan MacDonald, Darren Peacock, Clive Wilson and David Bardsley at the back. Simon Barker, Andy Impey, Ray Wilkins and Andy Sinton in midfield with Dennis Bailey and Les Ferdinand up front. On the bench is Tony Roberts, Ian Holloway and Gary Penrice. And for Ipswich, unchanged this week, Craig Forrest in goal, Neil Thompson, Phil Whelan, David Linnigan and Eddie Youds at the back with Mick Stockwell, Geraint Williams, Jason Dezell and Gavin Johnson in midfield with John Walk behind Paul Goddard up front. On the bench, Clive Baker, Glenn Pennyfather and Frank Yallop. Ipswich defender Neil Thompson didn't have much to do early doors, so he decided to strike from 40 yards and Super Jan, making up for his last performance, tipped over. Not long after, Simon Barker beefed the ball forward. Les Ferdinand met it on the right wing, cut inside to the box, tried to play it inside to Dennis Bailey. It was blocked by a defender, nearly went in. Craig Forrest picked up the dribbling ball.
Can't ball that.
Nah. Then, into the second half, David Bardsley smacked a free kick from 50 yards. It met the head of Big Les. It was going in. Eddie Youds made a superb recovery, clearing the ball off the line, clattering into the post and ended up in hospital overnight. 0-0. Later on, Steshkal pumped the ball 300 yards up the pitch. Les Ferdinand found himself with an open goal after Craig Forrest did God knows what he was trying to do, but he hit the wall. That's also known as John Walk. The game ends 0-0. A great point for Ipswich.
Ipswich came to Loftus Road looking for a point, and that's exactly what they got, playing 11 men behind the ball. And Ipswich have now drawn 6 of the 7 games so far this season.
Superb.
And next up, we've got Wimbledon, who are still looking for their first Premier League win. And they come up against the pre-season title favourites, Arsenal. Surely, this is only going one way.
Wimbledon line up with Hans Sagers in goal, Scott Fitzgerald, Dean Blackwell, Warren Barton and Brian McAllister at the back. A midfield of Laurie Sanchez, Robbie Earle, Terry Gibson in for Paul Miller, Andy Clark in for Steve Anthropos, and John Fashanu, Auga, and Dean Holdsworth up front. On the bench, Neil Sullivan, Neil Ardley and Steve Anthropos. Gunners line up with David Seaman in goal, Colin Pates in for David Hillier, Tony Adams, Steve Bold, Nigel Winterburn and Lee Dixon all at the back, with John Jensen, Paul Merson and Ray Parler in midfield. And up front, it's always Kevin Campbell and Ian Wright. On the bench, Alan Miller, David O'Leary and Alan Smith. In the 34th minute, Lee Dixon won a header, give the ball to Ray Parler, who tried to make space on the right. He played the ball back to John Jensen, who tried to whip a cross in. It took a wicked deflection off a Wimbledon defender straight to Kevin Campbell, who dinked a cross over to his best mate and strike partner Ian Wright to finish and make it 1-0 to Arsenal. This could be a walkover. Five minutes later, Wimbledon got the ball upfield and Warren Barton whipped in across to the far post and found John Fashnew's head. The ball went towards Robbie Earle, Seaman flapped at it, and there was Laurie Sanchez to poke home to make it 1-1. We don't mean to make a running theme about goalkeepers on Relive the League, and definitely not with Seaman flapping towards crosses. But we report it just as it happens. Then we had a balmy 10 minutes towards the end of the game. After Wimbledon tried to put on some pressure and Arsenal tried to force a counter-attack, the ball found itself with Robbie Earle. He took a few touches, composed himself, looked up and played a delicious pass over the top that John Fashanu, Auga, ran onto and somehow slipped it through Seaman to make it 2-1 to the Dons. Could it be? Could it? Some phenomenal vision by Robbie Earle and a wonderful way to pass to find Fashanu, who broke the offside trap. A slightly heavy touch, but he found it. Scruffy finish. Seaman doesn't really cover himself in glory all the time, does he? 2 minutes later, though, Ray Parlour picks up the ball in midfield. Great bit of composure, some fantastic hold-up play by Alan Smith. Played in Nigel Winterburn down the right. He put in a lovely cross, and Sagers thought, there you go, Ian Wright, I'll parry one straight to you. And the goal machine makes it 2-2. Arsenal are elated. Now, in the 88th minute, and Sagers wellies a ball up the pitch. It lands on the head of Dean Oldsworth. He flicks it on. It's John Fashanu. Him and Tony Adams decide to have a cuddle on the edge of the box, and Robbie Earle fires home to make it 3-2 to Wimbledon. Not a chance. No way. Is it going to happen? Look at the anticipation of the run of Robbie earlier after the love-in between Adams and Fashanu. What a finish. The coolest man in Selhurst Park.
Wimbledon get their first Premier League victory in a bruising battle littered with defensive and goalkeeping errors.
Hold on, Seaman.
But what a result, and the title favourites Arsenal, well, what
they're
can
not
you say?
favourites anymore.
And next up, we've got Middlesbrough, who are unbeaten at home this season, taking on Sheffield United, who are winless away and slumped down in the bottom three. Brian Deane has been called up to the recent England squad, and he is desperate to prove his worth to Graham Taylor.
Two changes for Borough today, one in goal. Brian Horn comes in for Ian Ironside. Chris Morris comes in for Gary Parkinson at the back, alongside Alan Kernahan, Derek White and Jimmy Phillips. In midfield, Andy Peake, Robbie Mustoe, Tommy Wright, and up front, Bernie Slaven, Paul Wilkinson and Willie Faulkner. On the bench, Andy Collett, Gary Parkinson and Jamie Pollard. Three changes for Blades today. Simon Tracy in goal, Brian Gale, Paul Beasley, David Barnes, who's in for Tom Cowan, and Carl Bradshaw at the back. He's in for Ian Bryson. In midfield, Kevin Gage, John Gannon, and Paul Rogers. There's Alan Cork, who's in for Adrian Littlejohn, behind Glyn Hodges and Brian Deane up front. On the bench, Alan Kelly, Ian Bryson, and Charlie Hatfield. In the 35th minute, Alan Kernahan whacked a free kick up the field and found Paul Wilkinson in acres of space. He could score from there with his eyes closed. He's scored so many this season, but he decided to lay it on a plate for Willie Faulkner to tap home to make it 1-0 to Borough. Not long after half-time, Robbie Mustoe chased down a loose ball, whipped it across, it took a deflection off a defender, found the chest of Derek White, who controlled it on the edge of the box and released a left foot drive, and Simon Tracy tipped it round the post. Making up for his horror show at Tottenham. with just under 10 minutes ago, Wilkinson was played in clear down the right again. He looked up, saw Tommy Wright in the middle on his own, who with a first time finish slotted home to make it 2-0 to Borough. Another win at home for Middlesbrough. If it wasn't for Slaven missing a penalty last week, it'd be maximum points from all the home games. What a team. What a manager Lenny Lawrence is. What a player Paul Wilkinson is.
You're exactly right there. Borough are proving hard to beat in the fortress that is Ayresome Park. Sheff United stay in the bottom three and they are struggling big time. Next up, we've got the winless Crystal Palace travelling to Villa Park to take on Aston Villa, who are still looking for their first home win.
And Villa line up with Nigel Spink in goal. A back four of Sean Teal, Paul McGrath, Steve Staunton and Earl Barrett. A midfielder Gary Parker, Kevin Richardson, Ray Houghton and Steve Froggatt. With Daly and Atkinson and Dwight York up front. On the bench, Les Seeley, Ugo Ehiogu and Frank McAvenny. And for Crystal Palace, Nigel Martin in goal, John Humphrey, who's coming in for Andy Thorne, public enemy number one, get well soon Dion, Eric Young, Lee Sinnott, Gareth Southgate at the back, in midfield Jeff Thomas, Simon Osborne, John Solarco and Eddie McGoldrick, and up front Chris Armstrong and Mark Bright. On the bench, Paul Held, Chris Coleman and Stuart Massey. At the start of today's game, Big Ron thought he'd take it upon himself to get out on the pitch and put the fans at ease about potential unrest with the board, and assured the fans that he's going to go all out next week to bring in Dean Saunders. Villa spent the next 90 minutes proving they didn't need him. In the 18th minute, Steve Staunton got the ball on the left, played the ball forward. Gary Parker with a brilliant back heel let Steve Froggatt burst into the box. He stabbed the ball inside and there was Dwight York to back heel the ball into the net to make it 1-0 to Aston Villa. And in the 42nd minute, Gary Parker swung a crossing. Gareth Southgate met it with a great header and it came to Steve Staunton 30 yards out, who unleashed an absolute thunder given over Nigel Martin to make it 2-0 to Villa. Then, in the 72nd minute, after the ball found itself with Kevin Richardson in the middle of the park, he knocked a long ball forward. Ray Houghton tried to get onto it. Chris Coleman decided to try and score a thunder goal through his own net. The ball came off the bar and came out to Steve Froggatt a few yards out, tapped home to make it 3-0 to the Villains.
And Villa produced the performance demanded by manager Ron Atkinson after a shocking midweek display against Chelsea to record their first home win of the season, 3-0. Next up at Ewood Park, we have got the money bags, the goal machines, that Blackburn Rovers, against the woeful Nottingham Forest.
Blackburn line up with Bobby Mims in goal, Colin Hendry, Kevin Moran, Alan Wright and David May at the back. A midfield of Mark Atkins, Tim Sherwood, Terry Dobson and Stuart Ripley. And up front, Mike Newell and Super Alan Shearer.
Yeah.
On the bench, Matt Dickens, Gordon Cowans and Roy Wegley. And Nottingham Forest have Mark Crossley in goal. At the back, Steve Chettle and Carl Tyler, who's in for Kingsley Black, Stuart Pearce and Brian Laws. In midfield, Gary Crosby, who's coming in for Terry Wilson, Roy Keane, Toddy Orlickson and Scott Gemmell, with Nigel Clough behind Gary Bannister up front. On the bench are Andy Marriott, Lee Glover and Steve Stone. 3 minutes in, Kevin Moran got a free kick, hit it towards the far post. Colin Hendry beat Carl Tyler and Pearce to the ball, and Shearer smacked home from 3 yards to make it 1-0 to Blackburn. He loves a goal, does Alan. And in the 15th minute, Kevin Moran did a weird back header for some reason and Gary Bannister ran onto it and smashed home under Bobby Mims to make it 1-1. Shortly after, Mark Atkins played a ball a bit aimlessly out wide. Shearer ran onto it and nearly scored a wonderful goal over Crossley. Just went over. In the 52nd minute, Shearer found himself in midfield, chipped a ball forward. Steve Chettle, he dillied about a little bit and Mark Atkins fired home to make it 2-1. On the hour mark, Shearer showed some blistering pace down the right wing and put Steve Chettle under some phenomenal pressure, who decked him in the box. Penalty to Blackburn. Crossley's ready, but it's Alan Shearer is facing here. This ain't going to be a tap in, is it? He turns round, whacks it home. 3-1 Blackburn. Now to the 62nd minute. Ripley, Hendry, Crossley, Badley. Quick homage there to the best footballing video of all time, Nick Hancock's Football Nightmares. 4-1. So Blackburn Rovers.
Yeah, Blackburn's flying start to life in the Premier League continued by easily beating Nottingham Forest today. Alan Shearer has now scored 6 goals in 6 games.
It's no David White.
And Nottingham Forest have now lost 5 in a row. 5 in a row.
How many, Ben?
5 in a row.
Dear me, that's poor.
And last up, we've got Super Sunday. We've got the champions Leeds United taking on Alex Ferguson's Red Devils, Manchester United.
United forced into one change this week because of Eric Young. But yeah, Schmeichel in goal, Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, Clayton Blackmore and Dennis Irwin at the back. A midfield of Paul Ince, Darren Ferguson, Andrei Konchelskis, who comes in for Dion, and Ryan Giggs. The front two, Brian McClare and Mark Hughes. On the bench, Gary Walsh, Lee Martin and Danny Wallace. And for Leeds, John Lukic in goal, Chris Fairclough, Chris White, Tony DeRigo and John Newsom at the back, David Batty, Gary McAllister, Gary Speed and Rod Wallace in midfield, with Eric Cantona behind Lee Chapman up front. On the bench, Mervyn Day, Steve Hodge and super sub Gordon Strachan. It's a battle of the Titans at the Theatre of Dreams as last season's champions face up against last season's second place. United missed out. They still feel a bit sour. Can they get their own back today? Again, United started off well. Dennis Irwin played in Andrei Konchelskis, who whipped a ball in. Ryan Giggs couldn't quite get his head on it properly, went over Lukic's bar safely. Lukic was being kept busy, but Aarons gave him an easy save as he rolled one into his arms from 18 yards. They had all the link-up play up front, but just no striker up front to pop it in. No Dion, who are they going to replace him with? Well, that'll make a start, won't it? Andrei Konchelskis with a back post header. 1-0, Man United. Some unreal play out on the right wing by young wing wizard Ryan Giggs as he met a through ball with it's sheer pace really, isn't it? And then look at this cross with the outside of his left foot right onto Konchelskis' head. That's world class. United were all over Leeds like gravy on a roast, and Giggs was a standout performer. He's absolutely unreal. He's fast as anything. His feet move like blurs. He can make anything from nothing. Here he forces a corner off the chest of Lee Chapman. From the resulting corner, Irwin swings it in, Lukic drops it, and then Steve Bruce is there. Big Steve Bruce wheels away like he's Scott Champions League final winner. Pallister gives him a hug, they're all excited. It's 2-0 United. Where are Leeds? In such a big game, that's quite shocking from Lukic, but Steve Bruce there with the poacher's instinct. Get out of it, McClare, this is mine. In the second half, a ball went forward to Mark Hughes. Chris White rose higher than the Eiffel Tower, but it seemed to bounce just at Hughes, and you'd think from here, he's just going to slot it in. It goes just wide via the post. So unlucky. He's got a dead eye on him, Hughes, usually. He's not this season, he's only got 3. They're relying on him for goals. He should have put that one away. The game ends 2-0 to Man United. Steve Bruce with his first goal of the season. Absolute poacher's goal as well. They've got the revenge. Could this be their year?
Champions Leeds were second best to a rampant Manchester United side for whom Mark Hughes was in outstanding form.
Giggs was better. And that brings us to the end of episode 7 of Relive the League. Yeah, I'm just glad to have some help back, if I'm honest, Ben. Thanks very much for turning up.
No problem. I'll be back next week.
You better be.
Hopefully, we can have a guest appearance next week as well.
we're gonna
We
try.
have had a couple of interest in that, so let's see what happens on episode 8, eh?
Aye.
So, yeah, here are the league tables anyway. So, Norwich sit top of the
Flying,
pile.
aren't they? Manager of the month, Mike Walker.
It was, yeah. Coventry, Blackburn, Man United, where have they come from? 4th.
They're flying, but yeah, look at Blackburn. They've only played 6.
Yeah.
As of Everton, they've been flying and all. I don't know, they've missed one game, and then they got beat, and then they've gone half mid-table. They nearly took top at league the other day.
And let's have a look at the bottom half. So, Forest are at the bottom.
They're sinking like a stone. Wimbledon have been there all season.
Yeah.
Class win for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, big win for them against Arsenal. Takes them out of the bottom 3.
Yeah, I don't know how Tottenham are in the same place as Liverpool. They didn't really get started until, week 5, did they?
Yeah, but...
Liverpool have, they haven't really got going, let's say. They need to sell Saunders now, don't they? Because that's, I don't know,
the dirty pig.
Should be having a 3-match ban.
And the top goal scorers.
World class, David Wright. Absolutely world class. He's phenomenal. Every single goal that he scored this season is just so good. He's so fast, he's ace.
Eric Cantona, Alan Shearer, both on 6.
Yeah, well, you expect Shearer to be there. Cantona, I don't mind him. He's
Don't mind.
I don't mind Cantona. Yeah, he's all right. Bit of French flair in the Leeds lineup. Yeah, I like that. David Hurst, he's unfortunate. He'd have been right up there. You know what? I reckon David Hurst would have gone to Man United replacing Dublin if he hadn't got that knock.
Well, we never know.
We never know. Wilkinson's unreal, isn't he? Brian Dean's had a bit of a dull spot. It's not his fault though. Sheff United are playing right well around him. Ian Wright's come up into the top of the list now as well. Yeah, hotting up this season.
Mark Robbins is still there.
He got a goal again this week, didn't he? He's not been inside though. Little Lee Power keeping him out.
You never know. He got his goal this week, so you never know. He might be straight in the starting lineup next week.
Oh, the England squads.
So that is it. So episode 7 is over with. So hopefully you have subscribed to our channel. Like
if you haven't, why not? Just do it. It's quite nice for us.
And like this video, the little thumbs up underneath. Give us a bit of a like, or any comments in the video as well. Anything you want to give any feedback.
Yeah, please do.
It's all appreciated.
Right. Anyway, I'm going to stop us there. We'll see you next week.